Hi, you're on the Retelling Films channel, and this is a retelling of the movie Roadhouse. A former UFC fighter is hired as a bouncer at a roadside diner. He fights off a gang of bikers who make a mess of the place, but behind them is a serious criminal gang that controls the entire island. The action begins at Tyler Durden's favourite event, an underground fighting tournament. Frankie is looking for a local champion who is beating out another opponent. The organisers are wondering who else is willing to challenge the champion. A young man wearing a sweatshirt enters the cage and begins to undress. Seeing him, the champion refuses to fight, leaving the ring. After receiving the winnings, the stranger leaves, but a disgruntled customer catches up with him in the parking lot and stabs him with a knife because of the lost $500. The fighter's calm reaction scares the attacker and he runs away. Frankie arrives and helps a stranger named Dalton patch up his wound and offers him a job as a bouncer at a bar on the island, but he refuses. The girl barely manages to give her contacts just in case. Things are not going well for Dalton, living out of his car. When a policeman tells him to get out of the gas station, the man rolls to a railroad crossing, driving onto the tracks in a fit of sad fantasy, but soon changes his mind. In the end, he barely manages to get away from the train, hopelessly wrecking the car, and then his eyes fall on the note. And so the bus rolls over the bridge along the gorgeous vistas of the coral archipelago of the Florida Keys. At the final stop, Dalton meets a teenage girl named Charlie, who turns out to be the daughter of a bookstore owner. They explain to a guest how to find Frankie's roadside diner, called the Roadside Diner. There, the waiter Billy recognizes Dalton. Looking around, the guest doesn't notice how the evening comes, and with it, the visitors awaken typical bar instincts. To get drunk to fight to the accompaniment of live music carefully fenced with a net. Dalton looks on as Billy breaks up the bullies, with the help of friend Reef. The evening takes a turn for the languid when a biker gang led by Del pulls up to the joint. They start to get rowdy, threatening Billy, breaking inventory. Realizing that this is the root of the problem, Dalton suggests the guys get out. On the street, Dalton, after asking where the nearest hospital is, deftly slaps all 5 of them. When that fails to calm the violent bikers, he hits them harder, breaking bones and knocking out teeth. Borrowing Frankie's car, Dalton carefully drives the beaten hooligans to the hospital. In the emergency room, he explains to the medical staff what injuries he has inflicted on them, so that they spend less time on diagnostics. But his care is not appreciated. Dr. Ellie sarcastically thanking the guest for the patients for whom she will have to work over time. But noticing the bloody wound from a recent knife, she offers to help. Back at the tavern, Dalton receives a paycheck from Frankie. She allows him to stay in a moored boat, warning him to beware of the alligator. The marina keeper warns him about the same thing when the man checks aboard early in the morning. At night, Dalton has dreams that clarify the past. It turns out he was a UFC fighter, a contender for the middleweight championship belt. In the afternoon, he's awakened by a fellow bartender who has brought him a home-cooked meal. While he eats, the woman tells him that the diner has already changed many guards, but each one left, unable to withstand the onslaught of bikers. The bouncer goes to the bookstore, surprised that every islander greets him by name. He asks Charlie for permission to poke around on the internet, curious what value the bar has since the bandits want to take it away. Meanwhile, a neighbouring store is being harassed by bikers. The girl comes out with a bat to chase them away, but only succeeds when Dalton appears behind her back, implicitly hinting at what will happen to them if they don't leave. A few bikers are sent to the yacht, to the boss Ben Brandt, a lover of all things spicy, food, sensations and sharp objects at his throat while rocking. He's reported to him about a new bouncer who is feared by the gangsters for his ability to fight, including with several opponents at once. At the pub, Dalton asks the hostess why everyone is learning his name. It's all the fault of gossip, which spreads worse than cockroaches. In the evening, the tipsy customers continue the traditional entertainment. The bouncer instructs Billy on how to face a knife-wielding bully, but when he lashes out again, Dalton personally breaks his arm to discourage him from threatening with a weapon. The experienced fighter continues to mentor the waiter, teaching him the techniques and subtleties of combat. Later, Dalton hires Reef, who takes up boxing. Dalton himself, in his spare time, trains to keep in shape. Workdays are full of live music, alcohol, inadequate visitors, and light unobtrusive violence. But soon, bikers in full force are discharged from the hospital and threateningly growling engines in the parking lot, not risking to come closer, afraid of Dalton. The protagonist continues to have nightmares about the UFC. Then, at the Battle of Glances, he slapped the champion, which is not very polite. Later, he paid for it in the octagon. After waking up, Dalton has breakfast at a cafe where he meets Dr. Ellie. She tells him that the locals live here on a tribal principle and do not like outsiders, and the police turn a blind eye to many things. Dalton works diligently, receiving a weekly envelope of money. Returning home at night, he sees a pickup truck approaching fast. He manages to jump back, but the driver backs up in an attempt to bring the accident to a finale. Dalton jumps into the back of the truck and, smashing through the barrier, the vehicle falls into the ocean. While in flight, he hears a biker named Dell driving the truck. Later, Dalton finds Dell on the boat with a shotgun. He wants to teach the former UFC fighter a lesson, so he won't get in their way again. With one good punch, the host throws the guest overboard, tossing the shotgun in his wake. Just then, an alligator appears. The reptile decides the bandit is her nighttime snack and drags him away. While the police search for the biker's remains, the bouncer pays Charlie a visit. While leaving the store, Dalton bumps into the bandit, who asks to get in the car. The boss wants to talk. When the bandit pulls out a gun, Dalton breaks his fingers and takes the weapon away. After unloading the gun and telling his partner where their boss can find him, the bouncer goes to work. The hapless thug reports to Ben about the situation. Suddenly, the boss gets a call from his father, who is in jail. To avoid an unpleasant conversation, the Ben throws the phone into the water. Further into the narrative, a naked Knox appears, walking away from his mistress. He receives a call from Brandt Sr. on a hidden phone in his shoe, asking him to deal with the problems his son is in. After stealing a stylish, glamorous jacket from a clothing dealer and torching the car, Knox heads to Florida. Ellie, having borrowed a boat from a policeman she knows, invites Dalton for a boat trip. Swimming out into the open sea, she breaks the boat and, taking chairs with an umbrella, goes down into the water. It turns out that in the middle of the sea, there is an underwater spit on which you can walk and sunbathe. The girl asks the guy about the past, but he refuses to talk. While they are resting, Knox arrives at Ben's house. In addition to an educational slap, he has brought dynamite to deal with a roadside diner and finish off an annoying bouncer. After dropping Dalton off, Ellie notices the cops inviting him to answer some questions about the alligator's nighttime feeding, but they take him not to the station, but to another pier where the sheriff is waiting. The policeman offers Dalton to get off the island safely. When he refuses, he is dragged outside at gunpoint and beaten until Ellie appears and slaps the sheriff. After taking Dalton away, she confesses that the sheriff is her father. He worked for Brandt Sr., who actually built the modern infrastructure on the island. Ben continues his father's work, and to build a luxury hotel. He needs to buy up Frankie's land, which she won't sell because of the bar. But since things are so serious, Ellie advises Dalton to get out before someone gets hurt. Wondering what to do, the bouncer is unaware that Ben's subordinates are setting fire to Charlie's bookstore as a message to him. In the evening, a former UFC fighter is late for work. He is approached by Ben, the boss of the local thugs. He shows Dalton a tape of his last performance, commenting on what's going on. Ben wonders why he was beating up an already defeated opponent who was also his friend. Leaving, Ben tells Knox to trash the diner. Taking a gang of bikers, the thug goes to the diner. There heats things up by swinging a golf club and bullying the customers. Billy tries to calm him down, but gets kicked in the ribs, followed by Reef, who goes flying in the throw. Even as the disgruntled visitors hold Knox down, he still has the strength to fight back. Soon, the hooliganism escalates into a full-blown brawl. Dalton looks on with indifference, but when Knox, having reached the right level of chaos, challenges him to a fight, he is forced to respond. They converge in the center of the gym, where Knox turns on berserk mode and promises to whip Dalton, as if one is a movie star impersonating a UFC fighter and the other is a UFC champion impersonating a movie star. The men work things out by hurling each other all over the bar and smashing liquor bottles. The underlings join in, but not for long. They have their own squabbles off-screen. Eventually, Knox throws Dalton to the outside. Realizing that he has lost, the defeated bouncer leaves. The bandits disperse, leaving the wounded to the medics and police. Ben learns that Knox didn't kill the bouncer and that the cops from another precinct, who don't take bribes, prevented him from tearing up the bar. Dalton is packing up to get out. Frankie, convincing him to stay, accuses him of cowardice, to which he agrees he really got scared. He goes to the bus stop, where he notices a burned-out store. The firemen say that the girl and her father have been sent to the hospital. Realizing who did it, Dalton heads to the Brandt house, where he finds whoever is responsible for the arson. The bouncer admits that he wanted to leave, but what they did made him change his mind. With a swift kick, he breaks the bandit's neck, then pushes him into the pool. As he drowns, Dalton says he's really scared of what he'll do if he doesn't surrender. He loads the corpse into the car, spotting another biker. He says he's getting off the island, and in return for his life, he tells Dalton everything he knows about the boss's business. Grabbing Knox's bag of dynamite, the bouncer goes to the yacht. There he has a recurring nightmare and loses the title fight, but at the last moment he goes insane. Throwing himself into the attack, Dalton not only knocks out his opponent, but bludgeons him to death before the ref pulls him away. In the early morning hours, grabbing a corpse from the freezer, Dalton heads to the scene of a meeting between corrupt cops and drug dealers. After stunning a sheriff's deputy, he takes the suitcase with the money and uses his gun to shoot the corpse to cover his tracks. Then, in an effort to induce short-term amnesia by concussion, the bouncer knocks the waking cop out with a stick to the head. With an anonymous call, he reports a dead body on shore and a suspicious officer, then returns to the boat to make a bomb. There he is visited by the sheriff to report that the officer has told all, but there is another problem. Ben has kidnapped Ellie. The sheriff asks for help, and Dalton agrees to return the money. He borrows a boat from a policeman Ellie knows and sails to Ben's yacht. On board, learning that he didn't bring the money, the guard punches him in the face, but Dalton doesn't even move. The sheriff is already there. The bouncer wonders where Ellie is, but the bandits insist that first the money, then the girl. The situation heats up, the bandits pull out their guns, and Knox comes up on the boat. He's learned about the explosives theft. Taking advantage of the hiccup, Dalton activates the bomb he brought. The resulting emergency and panic allows him to go in search of Ellie, who is in the cabin below. When one of the henchmen fires, it shatters a window, allowing the fugitives to swim outside. Ellie climbs onto the other boat, and Dalton uses the henchman's body as a shield from Knox's boat. Ben steals the boat with Ellie, and Knox tries to swamp Dalton, but the latter, returning, climbs onto the boat and throws the bandit into the water himself. Noticing the chase, Ben bluffs Dalton, but Ellie intervenes. Eventually, the two vessels collide, concurrently sinking the inflatable boat and hurling the bouncer into the boss's boat. There he attacks Ben, but the boat runs into the shore, ramming the bar. Ellie and Dalton manage to jump off, and Ben is thrown onto the roof. Knox, having reached the bridge abutment, slows down the driver. On the shore, the bouncer searches for the criminal, who shoots back with a crossbow but misses. Dalton wants to beat up Ben, demonstrating the principle of karma, but Knox drives his pickup truck into the wall. Not expecting to see him here, Dalton switches to him. After beating each other through the door, the fighters meet in the second round of a mixed martial arts fight. Realizing that there is no easy victory, the bouncer even takes off his shirt. In the course of the brawl, the athletes tear the net and fall to the drums, where Knox competently taps, but not the rhythm, and on the face of Dalton. Realizing with a broken face that he's losing the fight, Dalton resorts to trickery, taking his opponent for a choke, his only weakness. As he twists out of it, he jams a sharp splinter of wood into his opponent's side. This is when Ben intervenes, demanding that he kill the annoying and irritating fool. Knox does so, snapping the boss's neck. After recovering, Dalton intercepts Knox's hand with another splinter of wood and stabs him, himself killing him. That's when Ellie and the sheriff show up. After hiding the gun, the cop says the bouncer better get out before there are any witnesses. Leaving the suitcase with the stolen money with the bookstore owner, Dalton waits for the bus while Frankie and his staff repair the bar. Charlie manages to ask the man if he wants to stay on their island, but the man drives off into the sunset anyway, and that's where the movie ends. What do you think about this movie? Write your thoughts about the movie in the comments. If you liked my short retelling, then put likes and subscribe that would not miss new videos. See you soon.